Let's cut through the fanboy hagiography and corporate PR. Steve Jobs wasn't a genius, he was a brilliant marketer who repackaged other people's work, took credit for innovations he didn't create, and built a cult around overpriced gadgets. The myth of Jobs as a tech messiah is one of the greatest cons in modern business history. Here's why. Jobs' greatest skill wasn't engineering, it was stealing ideas and slapping an Apple logo on them. In a 1984 interview, Jobs admitted, "Picasso said good artists copy, great artists steal."
I mean, Picasso had a saying, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And we have, always been shameless about stealing great ideas.
Let's start with the big lie. Jobs as the inventor. The Mac's GUI, stolen from Xerox PARC in 1979, where engineers had already built graphical interfaces. Jobs saw it, demanded a demo. And within months, Apple revolutionized computing with the same ideas. The iPhone? Touchscreen-based operating systems like Palm OS existed years before. The iPod? Not the first MP3 player, just the first marketed like a religious artifact. The Lisa debacle. Jobs' 1983 Lisa computer, pre-Mac, was a $10,000 flop because he refused to listen to engineers. The Mac team later hid prototypes from him to avoid his micromanagement. Next's failure. After being ousted from Apple, Jobs' Next computer was a commercial disaster, sold only 50,000 units. Apple only bought Next for its OS, which later became Mac OS. Yet Jobs spun it as his triumphant return. Jobs didn't invent, he iterated and marketed better than anyone else. That's not genius, that's good branding. Steve Wozniak built the Apple I and II alone, Jobs just sold them. Jony Ive designed the iMac and iPhone's aesthetics. Engineers at Apple did the actual technical work. But Jobs? He took the spotlight, rewrote narratives, and convinced the world he was the sole visionary. Here's a fun fact. The iPhone's touchscreen was developed by Fingerworks, a company Apple secretly acquired in 2005. Jobs never credited them. The forbidden prototype. In 2006, Apple engineer Tony Fadell, iPod team, built a touchscreen iPod with phone capabilities before the iPhone project started. Jobs killed it because it threatened his pet project. iPod's stolen scroll wheel. Inventor Kane Kramer patented digital music players in 1979. Apple later hired him as a consultant during an iPod lawsuit, effectively gagging him. Even when he was forced out of Apple in 1985, the company kept innovating. And yet when he returned in 1997, he spun it as his resurrection of a dying company. Masterful PR, but a lie. Jobs wasn't just a thief, he was a monster. He screamed at employees, fired people for ugly fonts, and parked in handicap spots because you are allowed to be a dickhead as long as people call you visionary, right? He denied paternity to his daughter Lisa for years, then named a computer after her like a sick joke. Even his idolization of LSD and enlightenment reeks of hypocrisy. The reality distortion lawsuit. In 2008, Apple settled a class action lawsuit over iPhone 4's antenna gate. Jobs' response? You're holding it wrong. Engineers later admitted they knew about the flaw pre-launch. The secret Apple Car project. Before his death, Jobs greenlit Project Titan, Apple's car initiative. Engineers later revealed he demanded no steering wheel, insisting on full autonomy by 2015. The result? A $10 billion failure. Pixar's near collapse. Jobs bought Pixar in 1986 but almost ran it into the ground by micromanaging Toy Story into a corporate mess. Directors had to rebel to save the film. If this were any other CEO, we'd describe them with all kinds of different adjectives. But because he sold shiny toys, we called him a perfectionist. And let's talk about the human cost. Apple's sleek design relied on Chinese sweatshops where workers were paid $1 a day. When activists demanded Apple pay just $2 to prevent suicides, Jobs refused. $2. That's less than the price of an Apple Store polishing cloth. the $1 rebellion. In 2010, Foxconn workers rioted over conditions. Apple's response? A PR statement calling it unfortunate. Despite this, no wage hikes. Cancer denial. Jobs delayed life-saving surgery for 9 months, opting for fruitarian diets and psychic healers. By the time he got real treatment, the cancer had metastasized. Apple's real innovation wasn't tech, it was convincing people that buying their products makes them special. Think different? More like pay different. $1,000 for a phone with a slightly better camera isn't rebellion, it's Stockholm Syndrome. Jobs turned product launches into messianic performances. People camped for days to buy a phone they didn't need. That's not tech, that's brainwashing. The hypocrisy is astounding. Jobs screamed Android stole from iPhone, but Android's open ecosystem led real innovation. Let's be real, Android innovated while Apple stagnated. Here's the receipts. AMOLED screens? Android had vibrant AMOLED displays in 2010. Apple took them 10 years to catch up. Widgets and customization? Android gave users widgets in 2009. Apple finally copied it in 2020, 11 years later. Let's see the timeline of when Android provided what? Ultra-wide lenses, 2016. High refresh rate displays, 2017. Periscope zoom, 2019. Meanwhile, Apple dragged its feet for 5+ years to deliver these in the iOS ecosystem. Apple clung to ancient Lightning ports for a decade until the EU forced them to switch to Type-C. Even their MacBook users continue to live the dongle life. And don't even get me started on their fake environmentalism. No charger in the box to save the planet. But they'll sell you a separate charger and a $99 battery pack. How's that for carbon neutrality? Innovation? Error 404, not found in the Apple ecosystem. iPhones still use laughable under 30-watt charging while Android hits 200 watts. Those marketing ads don't tell you that Apple's cutting edge is a graveyard of delayed adoptions and artificial limitations. Even back in the day, Android provided removable battery and expandable storage which facilitated ease of use. Meanwhile, Apple, instead of innovating, were busy suing Samsung for rounded rectangular corners, which later evolved into stealing the notification center, widgets, and many other things from Android. Jobs didn't want competition. He wanted a monopoly. Apple didn't just sell products, they sold dependency. Soldered RAM. Glued batteries. Error 53 that bricked phones if you repaired them at your local store. New software updates that slowed down old phones, which shadily coincided with heavy discounts on exchange offers. This isn't innovation, it's predatory capitalism disguised as design elegance. iMessage shaming. Apple's hash green bubble stigma was deliberate. Leaked emails show executives discussing how to make Android look bad by degrading cross-platform SMS. Even in death, Jobs' legacy is a closed ecosystem designed to trap you. The Genius label? A marketing trick to make you ignore the man behind the curtain. This is why the myth persists. People love hero narratives. One man changed tech sells better than a team of engineers iterated for years. Tech media is lazy and compromised. Most journalists don't understand engineering, so they parrot CEO worship. If millions scream genius at a slightly thinner laptop, who's going to argue? The bottom line? Jobs was a master salesman, not an inventor. He took existing ideas, made them pretty, and sold them with cult-like hype. Was he important? Sure. Was he overrated? Abso-fucking-lutely. But hey, the world loves a myth, even if it's built on stolen labor, toxic behavior, and marketing bullshit. The next time someone calls Jobs a visionary, ask them. Name one thing he actually invented. Not marketed. Not stolen. Invented. Share this before the fanboys silence it.